Hi and welcome to another episode of the We Needed Roads podcast, and nobody calls me chicken. I'm your host Neil Gregory, and I'm joined as always by my co-host David Long. How's it going, David?
I promised not to tell a joke, but all the chicken jokes that you can now tell. I won't do it. It's fine. Go on. Go ahead, Neil.
Our listenership thanks you. Well, today in our news section, as most of the news over the last week or so has been about the Oscars and the BAFTAs, there's not really a lot of other major news we want to talk about. So one story we are going to get into, though, is news about yet another Star Trek reboot being planned by Paramount. Thankfully, this week, David was not subjected to anything as rage-inducing as Freddy Got Fingered.
Thank you.
And as a way of apologising, David, to you and your other half, I did recommend you Amazon Prime's new time loop comedy drama, A Map of Tiny Perfect Things. Mm-hmm. In the rest of what we've been watching section, we're going to get into Netflix's smash chess drama, The Queen's Gambit. Someone not naming names has only just watched it, David. We take a look at two new shows on Disney Plus's Star Offshoot, David E. Kelly's Big Sky, and Kat Dennings' new show, Dollface. And in keeping with our theme of being wildly behind the times on this week's show, I'm also going to be taking a quick look at Derry Girls. And one of Netflix's first original shows, I believe, The Sopranos adjacent Lilyhammer.
News.
So, the big news is Paramount are planning yet another Star Trek reboot. Now, opinions on Star Trek. Right, so my opinion is that Star Trek 2009, which was the first J.J. Abrams one, was a fun action film that paid pretty good service to the original and managed to somehow be a sequel and prequel at the same time with its alternative timeline. It went down really well, and I thought, this is great. We're going to be following these characters, these actors for the next however many years. However, they made a bit of a misstep with Into Darkness, as they essentially tried to recreate Wrath of Khan and invert as much of it as possible. So there'd be, remember that bit from Wrath of Khan? Well, the exact opposite thing's happening in this one. Yeah, it's still going to be exactly the same thing. And I think generally what pissed people off the most was, Benedict Cumberbatch, he's playing John Harrison. And everyone was like,
I wonder who he's going to be.
Yeah, are you sure that's not Khan? No, I'm definitely not Khan. No, he's definitely not Khan. Dude, everyone figured it out really early on, and of course, so the studio can't say the internet is right and give away the twist, so they have to deny it, which of course then pisses everyone off. But I mean, bar that, I thought it was a really quite enjoyable film, and there's always great support from Carl Urban, who apparently you didn't like in this, and Simon Pegg as always. Then the wheels really came off with Star Trek Beyond in 2016, and although the film took $343 million, it took it from a budget of $185 million, which in this day and age is a bit of a financial failure. I mean, I think the film really wastes Idris Elba's villain under a ton of makeup and just any really decent reason for him being the bad guy. I mean, most of the laughs do come from Sofia Boutellah's jailer, but I mean, I really enjoyed the slower pace at the start of the film, because you actually see Kirk getting bored of the same day in, day out constant exploration of deep space. I thought that was really good. And I loved that it tried to show the mundaneness of the Star Trek world that you've never really seen before. And of course, the other thing I did really like about it was it goes back to this film series' signature song, one of the greatest songs ever, Beastie Boys' Sabotage, which is such an amazing song. They actually used the Beastie Boys to save the day at the end of the film. I mean, the more I think about it, the more I actually probably preferred that to Into Darkness. But I can see it just didn't have the same mass appeal and, of course, didn't make as much money.
Yeah.
Now, after that film, things kind of slowed down on the Star Trek front. There was, of course, rumours that the current iteration of the crew's fourth film would involve a little bit of time travelling, with the plan being they was going to try and bring back Chris Hemsworth's George Kirk, and that was actually one of the roles that really put Hemsworth back on the map in 2009, before he became the God of Thunder.
Chris Hemsworth's George Kirk at the very beginning of the first Star Trek film, it's one of the only things I can really remember about that film. If I didn't really have to rattle my brain, his performance in that was almost better than Chris Pine throughout the entire film.
They might have gone with the wrong Chris.
Yeah, maybe.
The problem with this was, though, it was reported in 2018 that Hemsworth really didn't rate the script, and then Pine was also walking away due to wage issues. I don't think it was like wage demands, when you always see these stories about actors saying, I don't want that much money. I think probably what it was is the film didn't make as much money, the series wasn't making as much money as they wanted, and so they offered him less money than they probably already agreed to. And of course, no one wants to take less money. So it was essentially budget issues that just completely stalled the franchise. Then Fargo's TV creator, Noah Hawley, had a pitch that had been greenlit for a new Star Trek story that bizarrely and quite close to home, would set a new story and new characters inside the established Star Trek world, but the main plot of the film was going to be an intergalactic pandemic. So, yes. I mean, you know, we like to have sci-fi. Sci-fi is always great as a mirror to what's going on in the real world, but no one wants to see.
No one's going to want to watch that.
Exactly.
Especially like at the end of it all, no one's going to want to sit down and watch a movie about a pandemic, but not just a normal pandemic, a
space pandemic.
There's space virus.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't really think that's. I think that one's probably going to get filed away for at this point probably forever.
Is that actually what it's going to be about?
Yeah, apparently
I didn't read. I haven't read up on it, but okay.
I mean, the only funny thing from that is Kirk wouldn't be much use, would he? But it'd probably put Bones, your favourite character, to the forefront.
Yeah, yeah. I really did not like his. Yeah. I mean, the actor, I freaking love him in The Boys, but his character in this, it was just like every line. I felt like he was really bad. The performance, every line from him, it was just seemed so fake, and I just didn't like his character.
Okay,
but anyway,
don't piss off. You don't want to piss off.
Yeah, no, don't piss the
Billy
Trek fans
Butcher.
off.
No, you don't want to piss off Billy Butcher.
No.
So, where's that leave us then? Well, it brings us to the news that Star Trek Discovery and Fear the Walking Dead writer Kalinda Vasquez has been hired by Paramount and J.J. Abrams to write yet another new Trek story. However, at the moment, we don't know whether it's going to be a new cast and storyline or a continuation of the Chris Pine timeline that Abrams established. I mean, I imagine if it was big budget concerns that stalled the last chapter, then having a cast clear out for some veritable unknowns is probably going to be the cheaper way of bringing Trek back to the big screen. But as we did note on our Twitter poll last week, does anyone really want it? For me, it's a no, and that's as a Trek fan. And as a Trek fan, you don't have to like everything. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of the original series. I discovered The Next Generation when I was at secondary school. Loved it. Really loved Deep Space Nine. I think that is the pinnacle of Star Trek TV, with its Dominion storyline and its whole religious storyline they brought in that Ronald Moore explored even further when he went off to do the reboot of Battlestar Galactica. Star Trek Voyager I did like for a little while, and then I just gave up because it got pretty boring. I never watched Enterprise, which brings us to Discovery.
Man, there's so much Star Trek TV.
Well, I mean, that covers about it. I mean, and that's not getting into Lower Decks, the new animated comedy, but we're going to leave that for now. But, I mean, the best and worst thing about Star Trek Discovery for me is it doesn't feel like Star Trek. It's dark, it's violent, it's bloody, it's sweary, and it does season-long arcs. It doesn't do the standalone episodes, which Trek was built on. And Trek was amazing at its standalone episodes, and, of course, they use those to look at the issues of the day. You know, as I've already mentioned about the sci-fi lens being turned on what goes on in society at the time. Yeah. And Star Trek has always addressed issues of racism. They did trans issues back in The Next Generation. And I think these days it feels almost forced on Trek to do stuff like that when they've done it years ago before anyone was doing it.
Yeah,
I mean, my biggest issue with Discovery is Trek should feel hopeful and optimistic in its view of the future and the universe, and that's not Discovery. It's really not. I mean, on the plus side, the character of Michael Burnham, played by Sonequa Martin Green, she's absolutely amazing. And I'd love to see her in a movie iteration somewhere, because she easily would, she's the female lead you need for a Star Trek film. But I don't know. I think just give it a few more years and wait for the idea to be there that is worth doing.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Paramount own it. It's not like they're going to lose the rights to it to another studio. It's all Paramount.
Yeah. So my problem with the whole Star Trek thing, and if there's going to be a reboot, is I'm by no means a Star Trek fan. Like you've just.
What's your favourite Star Trek series?
Well, you've just listed off a whole bunch of them there. I've not seen any of them. The only one I have seen is Discovery, and I watched a few episodes of that, and I do want to watch more, but I just haven't. But yeah, so I'm not a Star Trek fan. I've watched the original films when I was about 10, and I was like, my dad was watching them at the time. I can't really remember any of them. So my first real look into the Star Trek universe was when J.J. Abrams' film came out in, what did you say, 2009?
Yeah, that was the first one.
So did it pull me in? Yeah, it did. It pulled me in. It got me interested in everything. There were some characters that I mentioned that I wasn't a fan of, but aside from that, story threads that you kind of knew were going to happen, and they were regular beats from other films at the time. But aside from that, it was an enjoyable film, like space adventure, you know. But then, like, did it get me looking forward to Star Trek Into Darkness when it came out? It did. I watched it again. I quite enjoyed it. Like compared to
because you didn't know the background of
exactly.
Rafa Khan, right?
Exactly. So I enjoyed it. So for people like me who don't know anything to do with Star Trek, I think that hit the right beat that it was trying to hit. But then the third film, whose film I couldn't even remember, Star Trek Beyond. Like I don't know what went wrong between the two, but that one just fell completely flat for me. I couldn't even remember the title of it, let alone. And I think a lot of people like myself that aren't fans just weren't interested in it. And I looked at the three films like through its grossing. So how much they grossed at the box office. Into Darkness grossed 467 million, and then the other two were both around the 350 mark. So the question has to be asked, like, does Star Trek have the box office power and fan base to even warrant a new franchise of films being made when you know the budget that's going to go towards these films is going to be 150 plus? Does it have the fan base that can break $1 billion at the box office? And it's never done that.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, actually. Although it's got like a loyal and fanatical fan base, it's never been a massive, it's never been that massive blockbuster. I mean, if I remember rightly, when I was a kid watching all the Star Trek films, the first Star Trek film, I don't know what they was doing, and they was trying to be like 2001, and it's long, and it's boring, and it's a real effort to get through.
Yeah.
Rafa Khan, the second one, that's when it...
2001 A Space Odyssey, were you on about then?
That's what, exactly, yes.
Right,
that's what they were. Sorry, that's what they were kind of. They came out around the same time, and they was trying to like do similar like epic ideas, and people just wanted, the original cast doing. They just didn't want that. And the same thing happened with the original Star Trek films with the original cast. Mm-hmm. They made less and less money until it was like, right, we're going to put the Next Generation guys in films. And the first one of those, it was basically both casts, handing over to each other, which was perfectly fine. Probably the biggest Star Trek film until the reboots actually was Star Trek First Contact, which brought back everyone's Next Generation favourite villain, the Borg, and they've done a really awesome alien invasion.
So First
action.
Contact generated 92 million at the box office.
But from what budget?
Oh no, sorry, worldwide 150. That was the domestic box office. Worldwide 150. Production budget was 46.
Yeah. So it made 3 times its money, essentially. I mean, I think they need to give it a bit of time. Like, just see where Discovery goes, right? Because I've still not finished season 3 of Discovery. And I do know that they are planning other spin-off shows. I know that Anson Mount, Captain Pike from Discovery season 1, is getting his spin-off show. And I just know they're planning a bunch of different things. So I think the way to go would be concentrate on your TV for the next couple of years, build up all these different shows, and then you can do the team-up movie.
They need to build a new generation of audience, like a new fan, because like a lot of their fans that were around in the 70s, 80s, a lot of them would have.
We're not dead.
Well, a lot of them would have died off.
So, I don't know how your concept of numbers works, David. But I was born in the very, 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 very late 70s, and I'm still alive.
Yeah, I know. Right, yeah, I know that. But obviously, if you were into the film when you were 60 and you were watching it then,
yeah. Oh yeah, I wouldn't be. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I just think I think we.
So
we can.
So they do need to build a new fan base up, right? And they're doing that right now.
Yeah, but I think what any good series needs, and what made the most successful Star Trek films have always had a good villain, and the Borg were the best villain they've ever had. That's why First Contact, until that point, was the most successful Star Trek film they'd had. So I just think they need a good villain to go opposite. And I suppose that's why the people who didn't kick off with Into Darkness about it being Khan, who didn't know it was Khan like you, were like, oh yeah, he's really good. Oh, he's definitely going to be the bad guy. Yeah. And then, like you say, then you get Idris Elba and you completely waste him in Beyond.
Yeah, I mean, the internet kind of spoiled that it was Khan. But yeah, you're right. My problem is just if it doesn't have the ability to pull those sort of, I'm going to say Star Wars because it's the easiest comparison for me. If it doesn't have the Star Wars 2 billion like box office hit, then is it worth the 200 million budget that it's going to put towards it? if it's only going to make 100 million for the and another thing, like films like Star Trek and Star Wars. Star Wars, especially Star Wars, is basically just one big advertisement for merchandise. Does Star Trek have the merchandise power that these other films have?
No, because Gene Roddenberry's original vision was it predate. Well, I don't know, man.
Yeah, because these like shows are basically just one big advertisements, aren't they? So for money, yeah, because if you look at Star Wars' merchandise compared to its box office revenue, it isn't even comparable. The numbers, its merchandise is like.
But I think a lot of
way
people
up
would
there.
say Star Trek deals with much bigger and intricate issues and has done that much better than Star Wars has with its storytelling over the years.
Right, yeah.
And you can't really.
Okay, we're looking at it from two different ways. I'm looking at it
completely.
from like a financial box office way. You're
Exactly.
looking at it from a storytelling, compelling narratives sort of way.
Yeah, and
Right.
both are valid, but you're wrong.
But yeah, so Star Wars' story, let's face it, especially the new films, it isn't fantastic, is it? And if Star Trek can pull off a decent story, that's going to hit all these beats that you mentioned before that it was doing years ago. Hopefully it can. I mean, it sounds like it would be better. I should probably get into it, to be honest. But
I'm going to pick out what I'm going to do, as it's all on Netflix currently as well, all of Star Trek. So I'm going to pick out just some of the best episodes. I'm not going to make you watch whole seasons from back.
Would I not need to though? Because wouldn't I need character knowledge or?
Well, not really. You can watch a couple, but what was always great about Star Trek is you could just drop in and drop out, and it was always a story of the week thing because it wasn't doing season long arcs. The arcs kind of came in for the first time with Deep Space Nine, but again, it would still be this is the main storyline of the episode. But in the background, they was building up stuff, and then it just went full arcs for the last couple of seasons. There was a gigantic intergalactic war storyline that had never been done before, and on a TV budget, and it was brilliantly done, man. I mean, there were so many parallels to World War II and the Nazis in it,
Okay.
but clearly done. Yeah, so I'm going to find you some of the best episodes from Next Generation, DS9, and do you know what? I'll just start you with the best episodes from those two because they, for me, are the best too.
All right.
Reviews.
The Queen's Gambit. Now, late to the party as always, David has finally caught up on Netflix's drama about a game I know nothing about, can't play. Surely a prestige miniseries about the world of competitive chess is going to be a snooze fest, right? Well, no, David. Tell me why this Gambit paid off.
Yes, it did. The Queen's Gambit was probably my favourite show that I've watched in the last 12 months. Maybe even longer. It was a bloody good show. I really liked it. So it was, just go into the show real quickly. It was directed and adapted by Scott Frank. It's the story of an orphan girl who rises to the highest heights in the chess world, becoming, whilst also becoming dependent on drugs and alcohol. It's a completely different take to your usual sort of coming-of-age story, which is similar to what it is. Scott Frank took 30 years, Neil, 30 years to bring it to our screens. He was consistently rejected because nobody thought that it would be interesting to watch a show based on chess, like you mentioned, and it was consistently rejected. And after some rewrites, Netflix finally took the chance on it and ironically became its most popular miniseries ever. So that's a big fuck you to all the people that rejected him.
And as you mentioned, it was directed by Scott Frank, who wrote and directed all of the episodes and adapted it from the original book. Now, this surprised me as well, because the original book was written by Walter Tevis, who died a year after the book's original release in 1983. So imagine what such a shame that he didn't get to see how. That book has shot right back up the top of the charts since the show's come out.
Yeah, the sale of chess sets.
Yeah.
Has gone like.
But surprisingly as well, it's not based on a true story, and because it's so down to earth and realistic in a lot of ways and naturalistic, a lot of people will think the book is based on a true story, but it's actually not. Tevis was a screenwriter who also wrote two of Paul Newman's big hits, The Hustler and The Colour of the Money, and he even wrote Nicholas Roeg's The Man Who Fell to Earth, starring David Bowie. So I mean, it's.
Yeah. I think a lot of people would have known of Harmon if it was based on a true story.
Yeah.
Even though chess isn't a very popular, like people don't know it. But I feel like Harmon, and it was a whole Cold War thing going on. People probably would have known about Harmon beating a Russian chess player during the 60s. She'd have probably been very famous.
Yeah, I mean, when there was all the celebration of the show going on, when it came out last year, David,
Right.
a lot of articles were like speculating on who the real Beth Harmon was. But as it was, I think Frank himself sort of said, well, it's not, it's fiction.
Yeah.
But everyone was just trying to find who the real Beth Harmon was. It's actually funny. Someone actually said to me the other day, "Oh, is there going to be a second series?" And I just looked at them and was like, "Why?"
Yeah.
Jesus.
It doesn't. Yeah. No. I hope there isn't.
Right.
So the show, like, aside from like me just saying it's amazing, watch it. Why? So like the chess matches that you see in it are so well done. But like, let's face
invention.
Let's face it. Nobody actually knows like what they're going to be watching. Right, like no one. If you were to put the chessboard in front of you and like you did all the moves, no one's going to know who's winning, right? So like everything when you're watching that match is done by the performances of both Harmon and whoever she's playing at the time. They're just sitting there in a seat with some wood in front of them on a checkered board, and it's like watching a boxing match. You feel all the tension, all the drama, their annoyance, their anxiety, the fear of losing, the weight of everything that's going down on them in that one moment in the game. It's done so well that you are completely sucked into the game, regardless of not knowing any of the rules or about it in general, or being skilled at it. I mean, I can't really think of another example where it's done so well. Something like that. I mean, actually, I can think of examples. Like poker scenes in films, right? So this is done as well as any sort of casino scene from like a James Bond film. It's done as good as Rocky's fights, and it's a chess match.
I think your analogy about it being a boxing match is better because beforehand, they meet she meets her opponents in social settings before the matches, and it's like a boxer's trying to psych each other out and throw them off their game and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think that's quite a good analogy. And like you say, the visual invention of the way the chess scenes are directed is what, obviously, like you say, makes the show really stand out. One other point I found in my research was that the actress Marielle Heller, who plays Alma Wheatley, Beth's adopted mum, is actually an Academy-nominated director in her own right for last year's Tom Hanks film, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. So, I mean, it just shows you the quality of the show that you've got an Oscar-nominated director as a side character.
Yeah.
I mean, you say about it being Netflix's. I think currently it is been watched over 62 million households have watched it according to Netflix. Mm-hmm. But again, we never really.
And let's face it, how many households are like sharing accounts? So it's probably more people have watched it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, they're cracking down on that now. If you check the news,
yeah.
Get your own accounts, you cheap bastards. I'm joking.
Some more on this. So Anna Taylor-Joy as Beth Harmon.
He's awesome.
She's what made the show, right? I don't think it's like an understatement if I was to say that we're probably going to be seeing her in a lot of bigger projects to come in the future. I mean, she's already starred in some roles such as The Split and The Witch, but I think after her performance in The Queen's Gambit, she's going to become one of those actresses that's a recognisable name and actress.
I mean, it's only a matter of time before she wins an Oscar, mate. She's that type of actress, isn't she? And she's so young still as well. That's the thing. She's only going to get better.
Definitely. You're going to see her something, and you're going to be like, "Oh, that's the girl from The Queen's Gambit." Like,
well, she started.
How good a performance this was.
Well, as you know, she started off. I don't know if it was her debut, but the first film where she got a lot of attention was in Robert Eggers' The Witch.
Yeah.
You say about what she's doing next. One of her next films is The Northman, which is, and I'm cripping this directly from the IMDb, set in Iceland at the turn of the 10th century, a Nordic prince sets out on a mission of revenge after his father is murdered. And it's written and directed by the director of The Witch, Robert Eggers. And listen to this for a cast. Anya Taylor-Joy, Alexander Skarsgård, Ethan Hawke, William Dafoe, and Nicole Kidman. They've thrown in the actors from Ralph Ineson and Kate Dickie, who were both in The Witch as well. I mean, come on. Viking revenge saga, man.
Star quality there. I'm personally not a massive Kidman fan, but yeah, massive star. I mean, Anna Taylor-Joy, she's gonna be massive. She's gonna be massive. If this is anything,
the only strange thing, right? Like you say, we just talked totally getting off point, but the star power in that film. But Eggers' films are not commercial in any conventional sense.
Yeah.
I mean, critically, the critics love them. Like, a lot of people I know didn't like The Witch, and The Lighthouse, his most recent film, was absolutely bad. It was that insane that when I watched it, I couldn't tell whether it was total shit or a masterpiece. And I'm still I'm leaning towards masterpiece.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
But when you're watching it, it completely envelops you in what the hell's going on into that weird. It was almost like a weird laugh. So I imagine his idea of a Viking film is not going to be what people are expecting at all, man. So
Right.
can't wait for that. But
Back to the Queen's Gambit then.
back to the Queen's Gambit.
One of our usual off tangents. So another thing I wanted to mention. So Beth as a character, right? She's completely unrelatable. You'd think, right? So she's this incredibly intelligent woman. She's essentially a goat of the game of chess. She's a drug and alcohol addicted. She was at the age of what I think was younger than 10. She's got an incredibly tragic backstory. But she's completely relatable as a character. And you're rooting for her and you project yourself onto her in so many different aspects of her life. The show wouldn't be the same without Anna Taylor-Joy's portrayal of Beth Harmon. And I'm so happy in a weird way that it was pushed back, that he was rejected 30 years for the show, because I don't want anyone else playing her. I don't want anyone else playing Beth Harmon. I'm so glad it was her, because I think she did that well. She did such justice to the character. You're 100% hooked. She carries the show 8 minute. Because if you was to mention all those things about the character, you wouldn't think that was a character that you'd want to watch for 8 episodes, 55 minutes, would you?
Well, if you think about it, she actually wasn't in the first episode. I mean, but
the character of Harmon, I mean.
Not
necessarily.
Well, I mean, that was one thing that stuck out to me. Before I watched the first episode, I knew, this is Anya Taylor-Joy's new show. She's gonna, steals the scene. And I think, if I remember rightly now, you have a brief flash forward of her at the beginning, and then the whole episode is 2 younger actresses playing younger versions of Beth.
Yeah.
And that's it. We don't see Taylor-Joy till the second episode.
Yeah,
but
correct.
But just it shows you that the filmmakers were so confident in the story they were telling and the performances from the 2 younger actresses that they didn't need to. I was just thinking, we're going to keep cutting back and forth, and we'll see her in the future, and then we'll see you go back to the past. And I'm so glad they didn't do that. Once she, I'm really. So many shows do that these days. Go back to the past, back to the future, back to the past, back to the future, and. This, you have one episode in the past, you start with it, you don't deviate from it, and then it goes chronologically in order.
Yeah, there are some slight flashbacks, very small flashbacks, but
not a whole episode. And
literally 5-second scenes almost.
Yeah, that's not enough to make it an annoying for me.
I was going to also talk about the themes that it hits, so the themes of gender, drugs, and alcohol addiction. The themes of gender is not only in the world of chess, which is dominated by men still now, I think, but even in the obviously in the 60s, I think us even talking about it would probably have irritated Harmon, because she was a character that sort of just
I like how you're imagining irritating an imaginary character.
She was the sort of person that wouldn't have seen gender as anything to why it sort of prevented her from doing anything.
Yeah,
right.
She just wanted to be the best, and it didn't matter.
Yeah. Her gender was completely irrelevant to her, but
to her, yeah.
But to everybody else, it wasn't. I mean, she's constantly being told by her mother and her adopted mother and her school friends that she needs to do something feminine with her life, or she needs to join this club or that club to find a husband, and to generally have her entire life painted out for her like them, where it's kind of led to nothing but depression and alcoholism for her adopted mother. And the drugs and alcohol addiction. I mean, I know you wanted to talk about the drugs and how she slowly becomes how she becomes more addicted to the steroid drugs that she's taking from a young age, and how it sort of ran that thread of she was more dependent on it the more difficult her chess became with the higher up in her game she went. But
well, I mean that.
Yeah, go on.
That was one of the only real criticisms, and not I personally had, but other critics did say online, was that she has almost these savant-like chess powers, and I thought, they're going to be really linked to her drug dependency. And when it's established so early on, I mean, the end of the first episode is literally the young Beth Harmon nicking all the tablets and then getting caught and then passing out on a chair from taking a shitload of them.
Overdosing,
So,
essentially.
Overdosing as a kid on things because she needed them to play chess. So, but what was kind of strange is as the episodes progressed, we never had that big moment where I thought, oh, there's going to be that thing where she runs out of tablets and then she can't play. But it never happened. So for me, I was kind of like, well, why are they making... And I suppose it is more realistic. It isn't... It's much more of a construct of a story that you'd expect to see. That, oh no, she hasn't got drugs and she can't play.
Yeah,
you know,
I think that's what... Yeah, I also think that's what the ending was about. Do you know when she visualised the chessboard at the very... on the roof at the very end? I think that was her sort of showing that she doesn't need the drugs. She doesn't need to be addicted to win. She doesn't need alcohol to survive and she doesn't need the drugs to thrive in the game. And it's sort of how she was, her sort of withdrawal symptoms that she might have been having. Like, that was sort of her overcoming them in a way. It was done very quickly and unrealistic in that. Okay, well, I think that's about it for the Queen's Gambit. I mean, if you've been an idiot like me and not watched it up until now, you should. It's good. Just watch it. And Neil, over to you.
Well, Disney Plus launched its new offshoot Star in the UK recently, which is essentially a mix of Hulu, which we don't get, and the 20th Century Fox back catalogue. And one of its original launch shows, despite being shown on ABC in America, was David E. Kelly's Big Sky. Now, Kelly's been on quite a roll in the last couple of years, with hits like The Undoing and Big Little Lies. He's now associated with prestige drama in America, but a lot of it's on a variety of networks. Now, starring everyone's favourite shield maiden Lagertha, or should I say Catherine Winnick, as Jenny Hoyt, Big Sky is a tale of two private detectives, Winnick's Hoyt and Kylie Bunbury's Cassie Jewell, teaming up to find two missing teenage girls in Montana. Now, this is not a prestige drama like Little Big Lies, but trash of the highest order. But is it entertaining trash, David?
No. So you asked me to watch the first episode, right?
I did.
Did I like the first episode? No, I did not. Were the performances particularly very strong in the first episode? No, they were not. Was the story something that wrapped me up in the mystery and the nature of all the crimes, what was happening? No, it did not. Will I watch the next episode? Yes.
And why are you going to watch the next episode?
Because of the ending. And it was so
Which
like,
we're not going to get into here.
Like, it was so,
we're not going to give away
okay.
spoilers.
Yeah. We're not going to give away stories, no, but it was such an okay kind of ending.
So, wait, so you're kind of annoyed that... It almost sounds like you're annoyed that the twist is forcing you to watch another episode now.
A little bit, yeah. Because I want to know how it goes, right? So it's got to... I think it's only going to
So
get
then
better
it's done its job.
Because it has done its job with the very end. Otherwise, it wouldn't have. Otherwise, it is your very generic American crime drama.
Yeah, I mean, in America,
about it's unique, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is where it's just kind of a strange hybrid show because David E. Kelly's stuff has been on HBO recently, but this was actually for ABC in America, which is network TV, and now we're getting it on streaming over here. So it's a complete mishmash of formats. What we're getting, it's funny because actually if you look on Disney Plus, every episode is exactly 45 minutes, which shows you they've had to take the adverts out for the show being a full hour in America. But like I said, that twist in episode 1, it keeps you watching around. You need to know what happens next.
Yeah, you've got we're gonna watch we'll watch the next episode for sure. I mean, I wouldn't have if that wasn't in it. If that didn't happen, I wouldn't watch it. I wouldn't continue. It wouldn't have got me, but I will now.
Well, I have continued, and I'm up to episode, I believe it's 4 or 5 now. Disney Plus as well. They're like America. They're releasing one episode a week. But the show has been that successful in the States that after its initial 9 episodes, it's actually been picked up for even more. And so season 1 is going to have 16 episodes, which isn't really the typical streaming model. It's more your typical network model. Now, Stephen King as well has recently called it one of the best American TV dramas currently on. And now, David, he is definitely talking about the more recent episodes, and America are about up to episode 9 or 10. Where we're still only on the first couple.
Right, okay. For me, like, from that first episode, which is all I've watched, the only person that was any good was John Carroll Lynch.
As friendly state trooper Rick Legarski.
Yeah, exactly. There was definitely, like we mentioned before, there was definitely like Twin Peak vibes from the show.
Definitely. He was just so overly happy, wasn't he?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and but the actor that disappointed me, I think, the most was Brian Gerarty.
Gerarty. Well, the truck driver.
Yeah.
He's a truck driver, Ronald Bergman. Well, I thought he was good, man. I mean, he's essentially just Norman Bates.
Yeah.
He's got mother issues.
Episode alone, which is all I've seen, he was definitely the biggest disappointment because I feel like his character could have been a lot more and been performed a lot better. I think he wasn't given the best script for the first episode, and I don't think he did the character much justice as well. But I don't know.
Like you said, you've only seen the first.
So
yeah,
it could get a lot better.
He does, and that actually kind of gets onto what I've seen. Now, as I said, I've seen up to episode 4 or 5 now, and it's really surprising to me as the show progresses how much more time and backstory is given to the villains in the show as opposed to our 2 main female detectives. And I mean, they are really badly underserved by the script so far. They've been really bland and ineffective. I mean, you've got your standard love triangle set up in episode 1 where they're both ex-detectives, so they're already failures at their main jobs, and they've got this private detectives agency with Ryan Felipe, who plays one of their husbands and one who the other ones have an affair with. Cassie and Jenny. And the funny thing for me is they're just, I mean, it's not a great representation of women on screen, you know. They literally have a bar fight in the first episode while Stand By Your Man plays, right?
It's very
the music choice. Like, I love a good music montage or good song choice where the words give you that extra meaning in a show or a movie. But the song choices in this show are so one note and there's nothing beneath the surface of it. You think, oh, that song would be the song I would play in that situation. Google it, and that's literally what it sounds like the guy who done this has done. You know. But no, do you know what? I mean, I think you're a bit harsh on poor old Ronald Bergman.
He might get better. Let's see what happens.
He does get better. He definitely does get better. Well, I mean, one thing you have to give the show credit for is its great casting of Jesse James Keitel.
Wait, who Jesse James Keitel? Who do they play?
Yeah, Jesse James Keitel plays Jerry Kennedy, who's the young truck stop prostitute that Ronald picks up in the first episode.
Is that a non-binary role?
Yep.
Oh, okay. That hasn't been established to me yet. Okay.
Well, and as the show progresses, you obviously, like you say, as you know from episode 1, that they and the 2 teenage girls have been kidnapped, and obviously you got some great scenes with them while their other stuff goes on. Like, I'm not going to ruin the thing.
Right. Okay.
But what I would say is though, that twist you have in episode 1 that makes you want to watch more. The show has a lot more up its sleeve like that. So you do get the sense that no character is safe as the show progresses, and except, I'd wager, Cassie Duell, purely because she's the main character in all the books the show is based on. But other than her, I think all bets are off the table, man. They hint at like a cult church up on a hill that we haven't really seen yet, so there's good stuff there waiting to be explored. So, do you know what? I mean, from what I've heard, the show gets better and better, but I was hooked from the first episode, man. So I'll let you know.
I'm going to keep watching it. I mean, like,
cool.
Jesse James Keitel hasn't even been established as a non-binary character for me yet. So yeah, I'll see where it goes. I hope there is more twists, because otherwise,
there definitely is, man.
If like these cliffhangers, it's so annoying when a show like this has a really good cliffhanger, and then you're like,
no, that's not annoying. That's literally the point of the cliffhanger.
I know it's the point of it, but when it's a bad, but then you're like, oh, I'm gonna have to watch it.
It's not a bad cliffhanger. If it was a bad cliffhanger,
it's
you'd
not
be
a
like,
bad
I don't care what happens.
It's a bloody good cliffhanger.
Yeah, a bad cliffhanger. You'd be
I'm gonna watch a show that I didn't quite enjoy, like all throughout, and then the end of it is maybe be like, oh, damn it.
Well, new episodes of Big Sky drop weekly on Disney Plus, and also dropping on Disney Plus this past week was Kat Dennings' new show, Dollface, which also I believe is into its second series in America now, so we're a little bit late on getting this one.
Yeah.
But Dollface is a show where her character Jules breaks up with her long-term boyfriend at the start of the first episode and realises unless she wants to become a crazy cat lady, and we see a literal cat lady at one point, she needs to make friends independent of just her relationship. And episode 1 deals with her trying to make amends with her friends from college and reconnect with her other female friends. Now, on paper, this is not my type of show at all. However, I just recently reminded how great Kat Dennings is when she had her little cameos in WandaVision. And do you know what? I actually kind of enjoyed the show. I don't know if enough to watch the full season, but what I liked was the little fantasy aside moments that was very reminiscent of Scrubs at its peak or Ally McBeal. And reading a little bit online to see what other people thought of the show, there was quite a lot of female reviewers saying that they liked how the script is quite sharp in mocking all these kind of fake girl power cliches, such as gamer girls and the concept of squads that's, they're getting shoved at them every second on social media these days. Yeah, so I was quite surprised, but if I've got the time, I might just binge them all when they're all done one week.
Yeah, so with Dollface, as of time of recording, there is only that one episode that we can watch. So I put it on for half an hour to kill some time before going to bed after watching Big Sky. And I saw the beginning where she's breaking up with her boyfriend, and then just like the craziest thing happened where she's like, I don't know, I'm assuming she's imagining the cat woman driving the bus, and I was kind of watching it like, what the fuck? And then it took my attention, and some of the smart moments, like you mentioned, where they're dealing with like what it is to be a woman and womanhood and all this stuff, and like all the cliches that go with it. It is quite intelligent comedy. Depressingly, it's written and directed by a woman who's younger than me, which kind of hit home a little bit. It's like, what are you doing with yourself? But
so what you're telling me is you're not a successful woman by your age, David?
I know, I would like to be.
Well, that's a great segue, David, from you wanting to be a strong young woman to a show about a bunch of them, which is Gina McKee's Derry Girls, which, again, we've missed a boat on this the first time round when it aired. Mm-hmm. But the whole first 6 episodes, season 1, is on Netflix. And I believe the second series is on various on-demand services. I have watched this whole show twice now, David. Now, why should you watch Derry Girls?
You watched the whole show twice?
I've watched all 12 episodes twice in the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
Watched it once by myself in about
You must have really liked it then. Yeah, like that's... Unless you just... you've got a thing for the Derry Girls.
No, it's not even that. It's really good. It's every character in the show, man, is just brilliantly well written. I mean, why should you watch Derry Girls, David? Well, because it's fucking brilliant. Now, it's the story, right, of Erin, Orla, Claire, Michelle, and the wee gay English fella, James, who isn't actually gay. And it's a story of these girls during the early 1990s, during the Troubles in Northern Ireland, and the crazy escapades they get up to. Erin's our main character, who's the wannabe creative type, and she even narrates the start of the first episode. And she lives with her space cadet cousin Orla, who pretty much steals every scene she's in. You then got the goody two-shoes Claire, who seems to live in a constant state of panic and will always be the first person to rat the team out when they screw anything up. And then you got the foul-mouthed, drunken, boy-obsessed, rule-breaking Michelle, whose penchant for anarchy usually kickstarts many of the show's stories. Of course, then you've got the token boy, James, who is Michelle's cousin from England, and he's the first boy to go to the all-girls school because they just know he'd get the shit kicked out of him if he went to the boys' school on account of being English. Every episode is gut-bustingly funny and has some of the best, worst music of the late 90s and early 2000s. I mean, honestly, it's got every cheesy pop song you can think of from that time period. And just the plots of the show's brilliant.
There's one episode... Is Reach in it?
Reach? Who's that by? I'm old.
Reach for the Stars.
Do you know what? I think it might be. Only because there's it's got Wigfield Saturday Night in it, right? It's got loads of Take That music in it. The plot of one of the episodes is them going to Belfast to try and see Take That because their parents won't let them. That's it, But it's so well done, man. All the characters are good. And as the episodes progress, it doesn't you get a lot more storylines thrown in to the parents. And the parents are awesome as well, man.
What age group would you say this is... predominantly focused on? Like, what would you say its core audience is?
It's a hard one to say because, on paper, this again would be something I'd have no interest in, and that's probably why I put it off watching it for a while. But I suppose it'd be aimed towards teenagers or young adults, like 20s.
Right.
But
I asked because I know my girlfriend's dad likes it, I think, and said that he watches it and enjoys it. Yeah, so that's why I was asking.
Well, I think because of the time period of the setting, right?
Yeah.
So the time frame was a little bit iffy because what it does really well is like I say, first and foremost, it's a comedy about these 4 girls and one bloke, and it still factors in. But why would you set it in Northern Ireland during the Troubles if you weren't going to address it? And so you get quite pointed, things like there's loads of really simplified arguments about it. Like, well, wait. And there's so many bits where, like, it's literally out of the mouths of kids explaining the whole thing and why it's done. And it's done really well. But I think setting it in that time period, I mean, it's weird to me. Some episodes it looks like it's in the really early 80s, and then other episodes it's in like the mid 90s. So I'm not 100%, and that's generally more informed to me by the music, because I was like, well, wait, that song was then, that song was then.
Okay, yeah.
But I think, like you say, that's probably why your girlfriend's dad likes it, because you hook in the younger audience with those characters. But like you say, the parents' characters in it, they get drawn really well as the episodes go on. They get their own storylines. They get a lot more to do. And almost as the show springs out, every character in it, I mean, there's not one bad character in the show. There could be someone who has a couple of lines and they steal the scene. I mean, I'm hoping you get some, even with the really shit music, you then do actually get some good music as well. So you get undertones in Cranberries. Although I am just waiting, and if anyone from Derry goes
say,
is
zombies played in it at some point?
Of course, zombies in it. Zombies the opening music on one episode.
Is it really? Okay.
Yeah, but here's the thing, right? The music in this show works when it's obvious, unlike Big Sky, right? Here, because it's a comedy, the songs are perfectly picked for the scenes they work in. So it's great sound editing and song choice in it. Although, if anyone from Derry Girls or the company that makes it do ever listen to this, please, for the love of God, put some Ash and Therapy in it, because they are the two of the best Northern Irish bands of the time that were never in it. So I love to get some of their music in it. Yeah, like I say, man, every single character from the show, from the main leads down to the smaller roles, all knock it out of the park. And I can't wait for the third series. That has been delayed because of COVID, but it's all written, and I just can't wait for them to get it here. I would say, if you do struggle, my mum went to watch it when it originally aired, and she couldn't understand a word any of them were saying, and didn't think to put subtitles on. I watched it with...
Definitely subtitle the first episode, then.
I think if you're struggling with it, put the subtitles on, but then once you're in the rhythm of the way they speak and the phrases, you're good. You're good to go, and you'll be fully in the rhythm of the show as well. So that's Derry Girls, David. It's on Netflix. Get on it. From Londonderry to Lilyhammer. And yep, I've just started watching Lilyhammer on Netflix, which is one of their oldest original and first internationally co-produced shows, which ran for 3 seasons from 2012 to 2013. And it starred Stephen Van Zandt as mobster in hiding Frank Tagliano. Now, if this feels like they've just taken the character of Silvio from The Sopranos and dropped him in Norway, then that's exactly what this show is. I mean, there's really little difference between the characters of Frank and Silvio, but the pure joy of the show comes from the initial fish out of water situation we find Frank in before he gets his footing and then starts turning back to his old crime boss ways, except for in the small town of Lilyhammer. The first thing that strikes you about the show, though, is this weird, strange hybrid of the way the dialogue is done and the subtitles. So the show is mostly in Norwegian, with subtitles from the rest of the cast, and mainly in English from Van Zandt. So, for example, he'll ask a character a question in English, and they'll answer in Norwegian, but both characters will react like they've understood exactly what the other one said. So, it was a little bit strange and took me a little bit of getting used to, but by the end of the first episode, I was hooked, and the presentation of the language just isn't an issue then. The rest of the Scandinavian cast all shine, from Frank's dopey number one Torgeir, played by Trond Falzer, to the Elvis and terrorist-obsessed local cop Gia, played by Kira Helm. Now, it's great to see Frank build his new life in Lilyhammer, but you're just waiting for his old life to catch up with him. And I can't wait to see... I just know at some point the New York mobsters are going to find out he's in Lilyhammer, and I can't wait to see them come in and for it to all kick off. So,
how far in are you?
I'm just started season 2. And,
okay.
There's 3 seasons of about, I think, 8 to 9 episodes.
Right, so that's probably like season 2 finale, season 3 story.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
right?
it's just really good, man. It's so.
Would you say
dry.
fans of The Sopranos should get on it?
Oh, definitely. If you're a fan of Sopranos and you've not seen Lilyhammer, it's like having a spin-off show with Silvio, just being Silvio but in Norway. And there's one thing actually, one little spoiler I spoiled myself because I looked at the cast list, right, and I saw that the actor.
For other people?
Well, it's not really. Well, the show's been out for almost 8-9 years now, so I'm going to say no. I mean, it's not even a plot spoiler. Well, you've got me thinking about it way too much now, David. So look, in The Sopranos, Van Zandt's character Silvio, one of his best mates is Paulie. Now, the actor who plays Paulie is in the cast list for Lilyhammer, playing another character whose surname is Tagliano. So I'm assuming, and I'm guessing, and haven't read anything more about it because I don't want to know, that Paulie is going to come in playing his brother in the show, which is just going to be awesome. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So that's Lilyhammer. That's also on Netflix, and definitely check that out if you've got time as well. So we're going to wrap up now. So after the Freddy Got Finger debate, if we call it,
there was no debate.
There was a spirited debate about the merits of Freddy Got a Finger the other week, but let's just say David was not a fan, and unfortunately he did have to watch it with his other half, who also got up very sharpishly into the film. So taking that into account, I thought I need a palate cleanser, if you will, for David and his.
You needed to
half.
apologise to her. That's what you needed to do.
Well,
and
I
to
didn't
me.
select the film. I did not choose the film. That was chosen by someone on Twitter. Blame Twitter, not me. But as I'm a nice host, I thought, what can I recommend that both of you would enjoy? And so I recommend to you Amazon's new time loop comedy drama, The Map of Tiny Perfect Things. It's written by Lev Grossman and it's directed by Ian Samuels. Now, Lev Grossman actually wrote the vastly underrated Magician's books. So think like adult Harry Potter and that show as well, which was also on Amazon at the minute. So if you like that, well, not really anything I like, but just go watch The Magicians as well anyway. But essentially the film is a two-hander with Mark and Margaret, played by Kyle Allen and Catherine Newton, as two teenagers who find each other while trapped inside a time loop. So it's basically Teen Groundhog Day, except both main characters are aware they're in a time loop. And it's completely predictable, but do you know what? The charmingness and the charisma of the two leads drag it over the line for me. I started watching this late one night, and do you know what? I ended up watching the whole thing. I didn't fall asleep, which usually happens at my age when I watch a film late at night. So, David, would you like to be trapped in a time loop watching this, or Freddy Got Fingered over and over again?
Oh, fuck! Don't like obviously the Map of Tiny Perfect Tiny Things, but the thought of there potentially being a David out there that is trapped in somebody else's time loop and is having to watch Freddy Got Fingered over and over again and forgetting about it.
That is most
one of
definitely
the
the darkest
scariest
timeline.
things I've ever could think of right now. But no, Map of Perfect Tiny Things. It's a very nice film. Like, I actually really enjoyed it. I didn't think I was gonna like it as much as I did. It's not going to pull up any trees, you know. It's not going to get any recognition on an award level or anything like that.
It's just a film and not, mechanical equipment.
Like, yeah, but it's just a nice film. Like, it's an enjoyable watch. Definitely one that you should see. You're probably not going to see it again, or if you do see it again, it'll probably be one of those films that you'll just put on in like 8-10 years time to rewatch. Like the couple caught in a time loop together, like it's the tried and tested sort of, well, the couple being in a time loop isn't, but like the whole time loop formula is very familiar to you. You know, it's everything about the film is very familiar, from the relationship to the time loop aspect of it and the dynamic, and just put into a different sort of context, and it's a nice, enjoyable take on everything. Yeah, I mean, there are some issues I have with the time loop stuff, and like when you play with time, there's always going to be issues. But
we don't have a spare podcast for that, David.
Yeah, okay, cool. But I did one thing I did think about the film, which I thought they would lean more into the issues that his parents were having in their relationship and the struggles on that side of things, just as much as they did with her problems with what she was going through. But they didn't. They decided to very much. Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, but they very much leant towards the ending towards her than towards him.
Yeah,
which is fine, but I would have liked that more of a context,
a bit more of an even split between two characters.
Not an even split necessarily, more of a resolution towards the parents' relationships and his dad's struggle. But aside from that, it was really enjoyable. One thing I did think of throughout watching it was the actor Kyle Allen. He kept reminding me of a young Heath Ledger, specifically a Heath Ledger from 10 Things I Hate About You. If you just Google like young Heath Ledger, and then Google Kyle Allen, and then have a look at the two people side by side, you're like, you can see the resemblance. But no, it's a good film. Good. People should watch it if they wanted to.
Well, it's funny actually. This has actually come out first over here, but in America, Andy Samberg has a new film coming out called Palm Springs, which is two people, a man and a woman, get trapped in a time loop on the day of the wedding. So, very similar films coming out. Again, it's not out in the UK yet. I think we're getting it on Amazon Prime in April. But there'd been loads of really good news about that. So I might actually try and find a trailer for that and stick that up on our Twitter when I get a chance. Because that, from what I've heard, was that film done even better.
Yeah.
Because obviously everyone loves Sandberg.
About Map of 35 things as well is it didn't have that. You like it started off and they already knew they were in the time loop. It didn't have that. Wait,
yeah.
And you said that yesterday, or that happened yesterday. Oh, I wonder what's going on.
Because you've seen that in every film that does that before, right?
It completely skipped it, which was.
Do you know what? That intro, actually, the intro scene where we first meet our main character, Mark, and he's just like, it reminded me of Baby Driver, just like the way he's casually walking down, listening to music, and he knows where he knows everything that's going to happen.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, but no, yeah. So I assume that's the apology for Freddy Got Fingered sorted now.
Yeah, we're halfway there.
Halfway there. So what? You have to find something else you like. Well, I mean, that's literally my job, so that's not too bad. Right. So I think that's all the time we got for on this week's episode of We Needed Roads. I hope you've enjoyed the show, and we'll see you next time.
We Needed Roads.